people, you're here with Peter Flynn. We got Corey. ABoutWell podcast.
Yo, guys, welcome to the ABoutWellbeing podcast, episode 35, I'm pretty sure this is. I'm here with Pete Flynn. He is the owner of everything, I should say. We had like a whiteboard session last week in Melbourne. It was really interesting how I met Pete. It was like one day was Boxing Day.
Yeah.
And I was out with a friend and I called him up because we're going out for drinks on Boxing Day, and I called him up and Pete answered the phone and he was like, "Hey man, when are you coming down? What are you doing?" And like straight away I was just like, this guy's energy on the phone is just fantastic. And he's friends with a bunch of my friends and all the rest of it. And anyway, so we ended up catching up, talking, hanging out, got along like a house on fire. Ended up booking a Melbourne trip for like 2 weeks later.
While we were out on Boxing Day.
While we were out on Boxing Day. And then we're like, he's like, we're booking Melbourne right now. We're going to go there and do all this stuff. And we went out and we did a whole bunch of planning and the rest of it. And I got extremely impressed with Pete because he like basically put his business and like life out on a whiteboard. And we were just like going through everyone's business or life or what we were doing on the whiteboard sessions. And Pete, for me personally, when I thought about like him and his whiteboard and how he's talking, I was like, wow, you're really the master of your own empire. Like he's built this big old empire and a must. Yes, Zara is a must. All of this wealth, which I think is like so fantastic, and he's just using it to do all these really good things and give back. And it's just like a perfect example of someone who's like climbed my hierarchy. If you haven't listened to episode 2 of the ABoutWellbeing podcast, Pete's like right up the top of there, which is like absolutely fantastic. So yeah, Matt, thanks for jumping on. Thanks for having me at your house, getting to use all this.
What an introduction. Oh my Lord, that was crazy. And then for everyone who is watching, this is my dog Zara. And you want to play, don't you? She wants to play right now. She's in that mood. But we thought we'd get a few cheap views and cheap listens by having the dog on. So we're gonna put up with this. But she is in a very, very playful mood. And she's so cute. She's got 2 different coloured eyes.
Yeah.
But thank you for having me. I actually, however, slightly disagree about the hierarchy. Because I still feel like I've got a long way to go.
Oh, as we all.
But thank you for building me up so that everyone's gonna be like, wow, the bar's up here now, and then
you got to deliver now, baby.
Got to really deliver now. So
yeah.
Well, thank you. Where should we start?
Bro, all good. Well, I kind of like would just be interested in like, what's your backstory as far as like transitioning from, I guess, just like normal life into like, really going down the type of business pursuit and the health pursuit and all the rest of it, optimizing yourself, getting clear, and whatever hurdles that you were overcoming in order to like, give back, be your best self, build your little empire. Wouldn't say little.
Well, backstory for me, I guess I did, if we go way, way back, I was useless in school, bloody useless in school. And I'd like you to think of like the kid who, like I played tennis and I was okay at tennis, I was reasonable at soccer, and I had a lot of opportunities to go and play reasonably high level sport. I didn't really care about studies so much. In fact, one of my teachers actually said I was celebrating mediocrity was on my report card. Actually, funny story, saw him very recently. Really, really nice guy though, Mr. Hitch. Thank you. You've inspired me to do slightly better than mediocrity. So for me, it started there, and then I decided, well, I have to go to uni because my parents wanted me to go to uni. What do I do? And I had no idea what I wanted to do, so I thought, easiest thing, my friend's doing civil engineering, I could do that. And it was at Mawson Lakes. Yeah. Now, by going to Mawson Lakes, the advantage there was a 10 cents per hour parking. That was why I chose to do civil engineering, right? Because it's 10 cents per hour. And I was like, oh, what a bargain, right? Which did lead, we might talk about money mindset later. But 10 cents per hour, I was like, oh, this is so much better than a bus ticket. I can try a little day when I was down there, cute as fuck. Right? So I did that for 6 months, but we'd probably better call it 6 weeks because I didn't really attend anything, failed everything. And I went and worked in labouring for another 6 months, and it was okay, got a bit of cash. It was kind of nice. It was the first time I really earned some decent money. Decent money being $20 an hour. And then I decided to go into human movement. Now, the reason I chose to go into human, I tried to get into the army, but I was colourblind, they wouldn't let me in. Stitch up, right? Colourblind. All right, well, I'm sorry, I'm not dressing people in the army. I'm not trying to get these perfect colour matches, but anywho, so I decided to do human movement because I knew a girl in it and she was good looking, and we were talking at the time, and she said, there's lots of good looking girls in human movement.
How'd you get into human movement?
There's lots of pub crawls.
Lots of pub crawls.
And it's fantastic socially.
Great.
So how did I get it?
What an incentive.
I got into human movement because essentially I still had my TER. It's ATAR now, TER.
And you had a good ATAR?
It was good enough to get in.
Okay.
It was just good enough to get in. So I got in and I managed to be one of the worst students for the first year as we went out and drank all the time. I had way too much fun. It was fantastic.
Yeah.
But then at the start of the second year, I was playing indoor soccer and that was where I broke my leg. So I broke my right tibia right here. I remember it happened I heard this massive crack as like our shins just collided like that.
Yeah.
And I was just thinking like, oh shit, I've broken this dude's leg.
But it was yours.
It was mine. So then I stepped back, I feel this pain. I was like, oh shit, right? So I fall down to the floor and end up having to go through 3.5 months of a cast and then learning to walk again in a pool, which is just a real nightmare. And at the time I was playing very high level tennis. And so I was in a pool with bloody Hilda and Enid and these sort of people who've just had knee replacements and hip replacements. And I'm trying to learn to walk again. And it was just a really awkward, horrible sort of feeling. So for me at that stage, I would say I was depressed at that time. It was a really horrible time in my life. But I had an amazing physio who helped me a lot, both mentally and physically. His name was Wahid. Still good friends to this day, actually. And I remember this feeling he gave me, this feeling of hope, right? It wasn't just like a physical thing, but it's this feeling of hope that we could get back to where I was.
How?
And no one had done that.
Yeah.
And how did he do that? It's just by listening to me.
Okay.
No one had really listened. The doctor at the hospital said, yep, you can go back to sport. But I couldn't even put weight on my leg yet. I couldn't put any weight on my leg, but apparently I could go back to sport. I couldn't walk, but apparently I could go play tennis. And I would ask questions and they're like, no, you'll be fine.
Yeah, she'll be right.
Someone telling you you'll be fine when you're shit scared that if you stand on your legs, she's going to snap in half again. There's no muscle left and you can't walk and physically you're freaking out.
Yeah.
You're fine, mate.
Thanks.
So he listened to me, he understood where I was coming from, and together we were able to develop a plan to get from where I was to where I wanted to be, essentially. And so that was a really, really big moment. That's when I decided, cool, I want to do this for other people. I want to take this feeling that he's given me and I want to give this to other people, essentially. So from there, I finished human movement, did rather well, found out I could go from human movement into a master's in physio, got into physio, went and played tennis overseas for a period of time, came back, worked for 6 weeks. We're doing the condensed version now, so we didn't take forever. Worked for 6 weeks as a physio, disagreed wholeheartedly with a lot of the different philosophies that the business owner had, and nothing against her. We just saw healthcare differently. I saw it in a much more patient-centered view. And I do understand that businesses have to make money to survive, and if your business doesn't make money, you can't help anyone. I just felt like it was a little bit too much on the business end of things, and not quite enough on the patient-centered. And everyone's going to have where they sit, and there's no right or wrong, but she was wrong.
Okay.
No.
You got me for a second there. I was like, oh, okay.
I swear this always happens with us. You're like, wait, what?
Wait, what's happening?
And from that, I started in a little CrossFit gym down the back of Rape Alley. There's no light out the front.
The back of Rape Alley.
The amount of time someone called me and they're like, hey, Pete, I think I'm in the wrong place. And I was like, all right, does it look really kind of like eerie and disgusting? They're like, yeah. I'm like, is there no light out the front? Yeah. Is there a scrap metal yard next door? Yeah. I'm like, oh, you're in the right place. Just come to the front door.
Is there some creature in the bin hanging out ready to attack you? Yeah. Right, we're in the right place.
No, you're sweet.
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
Just come in.
Why are you calling me? Come inside. So it was just me then in the little CrossFit gym. And for all I joke about, it was a fantastic place. Raoul, the guy who owned it, was great. It just wouldn't be where you typically expect a physio to be. It was on an industrial street, power station, scrap metal yard, like shed. Step back from the road, no lights.
Nice little physio place inside.
Yeah. Really, really quite nice.
Yeah.
And I never once got jumped. No one ever stabbed me. So I think, it's got a good reputation. But from there, I went from just me to then becoming a business partner with Andrew, my business partner. About 5 months later, we had a similar vision. Decided, hey, let's join up, and so we wrote our own contract. We didn't get a lawyer to do it, and I would not recommend anyone to ever do that. That's bloody terrible, right? I would not do that at all. So for us, we went from there, and we got a business coach, which is a really good thing. Shane Davis, bloody amazing guy. And about a year later from when we did that, we moved into our larger first clinic, and we started hiring people.
Modbury?
Yeah, Modbury, yes. And then from there, it just snowballed. We started hiring more and more people. We cut back the hours we were doing consulting one-on-one.
Yep.
Because our skills then, and our job, I guess, as a leader, was less about us selfishly helping those people and feeling good one-on-one. And it was so much more about how we could support our team to do their best work. So if you think of like that leadership model, normally you've got leader, manager at the top, people that work underneath them, people that work underneath them.
Yep.
But if you go leader at the top, and then you've got these people, but then you flip it and they go under the bottom, right?
Yeah.
Because your role is now to support these people to do their best work. Now, if you support these people to do their best work, suddenly you can help so many more people as an extension of yourself. Right? But when you're, and this happens in healthcare a lot, the business owner sees the most people. Everyone that comes in wants to see the business owner. And if you come in and you want to see the business owner, they might charge more, et cetera, et cetera. As the business owner, it feels good. Like that's a good stroke on the ego. Right? Because you're like, everyone wants to see me, I'm bloody awesome. And that's hard to give up. So for us, it was stepping back. We then opened the second clinic, which is on Grange Road, and we've been building that ever since.
Okay.
So we've got those two clinics here. We've got a surgeon, sports doctor, physio, physiotherapists, podiatrists, massage therapists, looking to get psychology in as well.
Cool. Was there a vision at the start that you had for building it, or did you kind of just wing it, like, we're going to start a business, we're going to go like as best as we can on this, work through a bunch of things and see how stuff go? Or was there actual vision, like we wanted it to look like this and you slowly started working your way to get there?
I think it's a bit of both.
Okay, yeah.
There was a lot of winging in there.
Okay, yes. Yeah.
It was, how I'd like describe it is we were going skydiving and we had all the materials to build a parachute, but we didn't start building it until we jumped out of the plane.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, so you know, you've got a certain amount of time to make shit work before it might hit the ground. So we were able to piece those things together and, you know, didn't break any bones in the process.
Thank God.
Which was nice. I've broken enough of those down. So for me, that was the way we sort of looked at it. So there was a vision. We did want to create something bigger. We wanted to go multidisciplinary. We didn't know exactly what that looked like. We didn't have that perfect vision. It's probably something I do a lot more now is look at visualizing where I want to go and be very, very specific. Back then, I wasn't quite as good at that.
How many years did it take you to get from like starting Physio Fit to kind of like when people really started to get on board, when it started to like really open up? And when you were in a real good like leadership position?
I mean, I'm always tempted to say we're still working towards that.
Yeah, I guess so, yeah.
But Andrew and I stopped consulting just about 3 years ago now.
Okay, and when did you start?
2015, July 1st. So probably about 2 years in.
2 years.
Basically,
That's pretty insane when you think about it.
It's very quick, that first part.
So what were the biggest, like, I guess, struggles that you had to overcome in that venture in order to, I guess, take those steps back?
I think ego is one of them in terms of like...
How'd it show up?
I think it's slightly different to what most people would think. It wasn't just ego in terms of like wanting to be the best kind of thing. It's that selfish thing of when you work with a patient and you're working with a patient and they get better, or you're working with them and you're like, I was a shoulder physio, you work on their shoulder, no one's been able to help their shoulder before, and suddenly you're able to help them to get back to their job or get back to doing the things that they love doing, and you see the pain decrease. For me, that was the really big thing. Like it's selfishly rewarding when someone gets better and they're like, thank you. Yeah. That's the hardest thing to give up for me.
But then, so then as well, I guess being in the leadership position, it's that knowing and having a team and trusting them that that's happening all day, every single day. Yeah. And that's happening as a result of you guys coordinating everything all in once.
Absolutely.
I like that.
I'd say that was the one biggest struggle. And then probably the other thing is just systemizing things, like creating systems that businesses can run on really, really effectively. Yeah. And that's not my strength. Yeah. So we had to hire someone who was really good at doing that.
Yeah, which was actually going to lead to my next question. So I think one of the biggest points which you just mentioned beforehand, which led to the success, was very early on, you're like, we got a business coach. So going out there, I think if you're having any sort of goal, no matter what it is, having a certain coach that's going to guide you to get you, I guess, it's going to reduce all of external stimulus, distractions, tiny object, and just be like, this is the most clear, important decision that you can make for what you're doing. Yeah. And then you're following along with that. Hence why it's like, like physio, 2 years for getting into it. I think that's really good. So my question was going to say, where'd you learn all the business skills?
the business skills from mentors,
Yeah.
from books,
Yeah.
and from the internet as well.
Yeah.
So I think with mentors, it was seeking people who I believe were really great, that I wanted to emulate the success, their mindset, and really chasing those people and trying to spend as much time with them. Because when you spend time with amazing people, it rubs off on you, the way they think, their mindset about certain things. You know, there's that mindset of negativity and scarcity, and we see that way too often. And we've all been there at times. We're wired to go that way as humans, right? But can you flip that and have that opportunity and that positivity and that growth mindset? And like when COVID hit, right? Shit hit the fan. Boy, businesses fell off a fucking cliff. They were, golly gosh, they were fucked for a while, right? Before JobKeeper came in, there were a lot of people going, uh-oh.
You've actually got an awesome story. Sorry, buddy, right now. But would you mind sharing the story of what you went through in Physio Fit, like before, when all the stuff happened and your staff were all worried about what was happening when the COVID hit, about loss of jobs, and then before JobKeeper hit and was one of the best opportunities for you?
Yeah, I mean, wouldn't call it an awesome story. It's a very painful,
it was
story.
It was painful for a while.
Awesome story.
Yeah,
all right, that's
but it was
a nice way to put it.
It was good. I got a lot of motivation from it. It was a very touching story.
Yeah, I was really, really proud of our team. We sort of came together and said, look, guys, this is happening, and we don't know how long this is going to happen for. We don't know how hard this is going to hit us. But we really need to come together as a team, and we need to make some hard decisions right now. And the hard decisions are, we need to cut back costs and we need to scale back costs. And people within we had choices, right? Either everyone was going to take small cuts, or some people were going to have to take large cuts, the large cut, right? And so for us, it was going, well, what's the best way to manage this and get through this to the other side? Because as a business owner, you spent so long creating this, you've got this team, you're trying to keep everyone in employment, they've got money for themselves, their family, etc. And you have to make sure that at the end of this, there's still a job left. So you're not just bleeding yourself in order to short-term keep everyone happy, but long-term everyone loses their job. And so you're trying to juggle all these things here, and everyone's got different priorities and different, I guess, commitments that they might have. So everyone sort of came together and took their own small cut in a certain way. Myself and Andrew put our hands up first and said, we're not taking a salary, we're not taking a cent. And then we had other people who offer, what they could to really help the business get through that. And we were super grateful because it allowed us, pre-JobKeeper, to really make sure that, well, the business was going to be there at the other end. We're going to be in a position to have everyone in employment, and it wasn't just going to go down the gurgler because we tried to do too much too early. It's still the shittest, hardest decisions to make when you're looking at those things and going where do these cuts come from? And everyone is going to see it differently, because in the moment everyone's thinking very much about their own situation. It's very hard for someone to see someone else's situation. And I remember many, many really tough nights, just sitting down, looking at those numbers and just thinking how can I ask this of someone? How can I ask someone to take this cut, or to stay on a cut whilst we try and bring someone up to that same level who was on a less level, because we had some people who just missed out on JobKeeper, and that was a really hard time as well. We spent many, many nights going over all those things, and it was, I tell you what, it was not an easy time, but we were super grateful for the team to come together then. But at the same time, we also looked at how we could give back. When COVID hit, we were like, shit, well, really, really hard. I don't know what to do right now. So we actually created an online platform called Frontline Healthcare.
Oh, nice.
Which provided free online allied health services to people, to doctors and nurses around Australia on the front line. So we had physio, podiatry, we had psychology, etc. And we actually had about nearly 50-something business owners sign up to work together. We had software companies that donated the software. So we're able to bring all this together, and we're able to help. I would have liked to help more people, but we're able to help doctors and nurses on the front line who were probably quite stressed, under the pump. So that was something that really cool we were able to do, because I think when it comes down to it, when you can't focus on your own business, you feel so out of control there, you go, well, where can I get control back in my life? Because control is important for us as humans. So when you feel out of control, it's really important to try and find that control back somewhere, all right? And for us, it was by giving back to others, because if we could help people in some way, it would give us control that we're doing some good and allow us to focus on something that's really good, that makes us feel good selfishly during a time where everyone's feeling pretty shit, you know?
Yeah.
So that was really amazing to be able to give back to those people. It allowed us to have a little bit of control back in our lives. And at the end of the day, I think the hugely positive thing to come from that is it's just about doing the right thing consistently and building that brand within the community as well. So you'll get the other positive things that come from that of, hey, those guys, when they couldn't help themselves, they helped other people. They made that choice. And I think long term, it's like deposits in the emotional bank, right? These things add up long term. And I think for a company to be truly successful over time and a team to be successful, it's not just about, treating your customers well or doing a good job. It's about really delighting people. And no business ever failed that had hundreds of thousands of, delighted customers.
No, yeah, and employees as well. I love that. So once a PhysioFit started sorting itself out and doing that, what was like the next ventures for you? Because you got into a couple of, you like business coach now, you do some other things. What are you currently doing?
So the next one was business coaching, jumped into that, which is fantastic.
How'd you get started in that? How did that opportunity arise?
My business coach at the time sort of offered the opportunity to myself, my business partner, and another guy. So it was really great. We were able to take that opportunity and start giving back and helping other people to grow their own businesses the same way that we'd grown our business through this company. So that was really cool, and I really enjoy doing that. It's a good fun part of my week. I do that 2 days a week. I also get to speak at their events and do those kinds of things with them as well, which is, it allows you to have that scale, right? It allows you to impact people on a greater scale. If I work with a business owner and the business owner has 10 people that work for them, right? And those 10 people help 50 people each week, those small changes I'm making with that business owner, right? It's affecting 500 people a week.
Massive butterfly.
Now, if I work with 25 business owners, we're talking really big numbers here, like big numbers, man. So
big numbers, yeah.
Each week, each year. So that's unreal. And you start to think about, when I talk at an event, there's a few hundred people there and they've all got people that work for them, like there's a ripple effect here, and it's really quite unreal. So that came next. And then from that, we started Imovie, which is, it helps practitioners. So we go through helping them with their soft skills, some manual therapy skills as well, but also looking into like career fulfillment, life fulfillment, and success, and how to actually really take that next step and love what you do. So.
And then you do keynote speaking as well.
Yes. Sorry, I forgot about that one. So
the one you love the most.
The one I love the most. I love talking at events. Events are bloody brilliant, right?
Because you get to go up and you get to talk about whatever it is that you love talking about. For me, I'm passionate about talking about communication and health in business, right? Because it's so important in everything that we do. I get to talk about marketing. I get to talk about how to mentor people and grow a team. I can talk about my own experiences in entrepreneurship and growing different businesses, which is really cool as well. Really, you just get to talk about those subjects that you're passionate about, that you think are going to make a difference to the people in the audience,
with some takeaway points that will hopefully change their perspective just a slight bit, just a slight change in that perspective. And hopefully, and even if just one person in that audience goes, I can relate to that and I can take this and I can change my life, I think that's pretty amazing, right?
Oh, dude, 100%. How would you best motivate someone? So if anyone was listening and let's say they're working like a 9 to 5 or a 7 to 3:30 or something, and they sort of wanted to have the freedom, they wanted to work something for your passion and purpose. What do you think some of the best things they can do to get really clear onto, take that journey?
It's a good question.
Yeah.
I would probably look at it from a few different angles as well. I'd probably go like, what are you really passionate about? Yeah. So like, what are you stupidly passionate about? What do you do?
How would people find it, is a question. How did you find your passion?
How do you find it?
Yeah.
Have you ever bought like those, those mystery boxes and you get all these different things in there?
Yeah.
No.
Get a mystery box.
Get a mystery box and see
lucky dip.
See if you like any of the shit in there. No. I think it's important to look at things in a couple of different ways, though. To find out, like, firstly, I just say, like, what are you doing when you lose track of time? So in your life, what are the things that you do when you lose track of time? Now they might be like COD, and you're like, cool, all right, well, we need to work on getting you lots of subscribers on YouTube to watch you play COD, and you're gonna have to be funny, right? You gotta be funny, you gotta be entertaining, or you gotta be about 22 years old and really sexy, like, and female, because you'll get many, many bloody viewers, right? And if you can be funny too, oh my Lord, like, do you want the red
Sign me
or the
up.
black slam? Like, I don't understand. So find what it is that when you're doing that thing, you lose track of time.
Yeah.
And it may be that you're like, I don't know what that is yet. And that just means you've got to go and experiment and try new things. Right? Do new experiences. Do one new thing each week that you've never done before. Okay? And maybe you come back and you go, I'm still not super passionate about something. Cool. Now maybe your passion lies outside of something that you think you can monetize.
Well, maybe your role is then to go, and there's nothing wrong with this, right? This is very Grant Cardone style, of going, well, what are the areas that have the largest upside in business? What are the things that are going to be the most profitable and easy to make into a large business? Now, there's nothing wrong with this, and you can create a business around a hole in the market, make money, and then that feeds into your lifestyle. And maybe your lifestyle is the most important thing to you, right? So you don't have to completely love, right? Because the way Grant Cardone looks at this, and it's not exactly how I look at it, but he says passion is learnt, right? Doing something you're passionate about is something that you learn to do. You're not born passionate about anything. So he said, be passionate about something that makes lots of money, because that fits into being able to support your friends, your family, your community, etc. Which is, it's an interesting way of looking at it, but you can probably teach yourself to be passionate about certain things. Now, I prefer to look at the other way slightly and go, all right, well, what am I doing when I just lose complete track of time? But you do want to marry the two up to try and make sure that you are doing something that is going to give you a reasonable upside, because from a practical business point of view, it's going to allow you to really go the furthest and have the largest reach. Because there's nothing wrong with making money. In fact, the more money you make, the larger the reach you can have. The larger the reach you can have, the larger the impact you can have.
And a lot of people have a very bad relationship with money, and I did too. If I sort of just think back to maybe when I was young, something I would hear a lot from my parents, and when someone drove past in a nice car, or when someone had money, it was very negative. Like, oh, like how do they get that money? They, use this negative connotation of, oh, what do they do? Or they just got given that, or they inherit, like all those sorts of things. And
so suddenly drilled into you is like, oh, if you've got money, you're a bad person, or you did something bad to get that. It's really hard to get out of that mindset into the mindset of money is a thing. Money is an object. It's nothing. It's neither good nor bad. It's the same, let's say a knife. A knife is neither good nor bad. In two different people's hands, it can be good or bad. In a bad person's hand, they might go and stab you, your dog, your puppy. That would be the worst thing ever. In someone else's hand, they could make you a bloody awesome steak.
Make a good meal.
Medium rare, like half a kilo, maybe a kilo. Oh, imagine that right now. Salivating just thinking about that. Boy, oh boy. It's the same thing with money. If you have, oh, hey buddy, if you have a lot of money and you're a bad person, you probably have more opportunity to be a worse person and affect more people. But if you're a good person, you've got more opportunity to do good.
I think one of the big things that you said on that, like last weekend, which was really important, was like when you have an abundance in money, you should strive for an abundance of money, because when you are an abundance of money, you're just essentially a better version of yourself. And you can give back more on the places that you need, and you can be more of you because of that.
I find it really interesting as well, because if you were to look at me 5-10 years ago, it would have been a very different scenario. But having an abundance of anything means you're in a position to give more and to really like experience, as a saying I love giving. And I'll use the example last week of I upgraded both yourself and Rob to business class.
Yeah, that was great.
It's like, how cool is that to be like, and again, money's neither a good nor a bad thing, but you can do something like that and surprise a friend with something they're like, oh my God, like they just were not, like how did you feel in the moment where it clicked, right?
I had no idea. Pete surprised us. We were just flying back from Melbourne, and we were just like, normal trip, whatever this is. And then Pete was like, yo, we're up to business class. And me and Rob were like, whoa. So that was like a really good moment.
It's just being able to do those things, and whether it's your friends, your family, all those different things, you can help people so much more.
So another question that I'd like to ask you is, with if someone else was a business owner, or they were sort of an entrepreneur as well, and they're in the business endeavors, and let's say that in their business they're completely stressed out, they're working their asses off, they're crushing a bunch of stuff, how would you best recommend them to sort of get themselves out of that, stress state, whether it could be business, financial, worrying for the rest of it, to sort of just get themselves, I could say, happy and a lot more relaxed? Because you come across very relaxed with all the things you're doing, and you're making these big decisions and all the rest of it. I think you've sort of like optimized that point of view.
I think there's about 20 questions in that one.
Yeah, sorry, bro. So yeah, what would be like the biggest recommendations that you could give to someone who's a business owner who has just got a shitload on their plate?
I think to start with, for me, it's simplifying it down and distilling it down to what's really important. And the first thing I do for that is I go, well, what's the goalpost? Where are we trying to get to? And it might be 3 years' time, it might be 1 year's time that we're putting this goalpost in the ground, and then we've got today. And now what I want to do is work backwards. So if it's a 3-year goalpost, in 1 year's time, I want to be a third of the way there, essentially. Or if it's linear, it might be slightly exponential. Whatever it may be, it might be a ceiling. But you have an idea, right? So you've got the goalpost, you break it down. Now you go, cool. Now we've got 4 quarters in a year. So after the first quarter, where do I want to be on my way towards this 1 year goal, which is on the way to the 3-year goal? And I go, right, I've got 90 days now. Now in 90 days, what do I think is realistic for me to accomplish? Okay, and I'm going to go, all right, well, remember you said you've got all these things to be doing. So in 90 days, I'd list down all those things, and I'd go, what are the most important?
What are the most high profit actions? What's going to make the biggest difference to the bottom line of the business? What's going to make the biggest difference to my mindset and how I'm feeling? What's going to make the biggest difference to the people around me, my health and fitness? You can break it up into different subcategories there. If we focus purely on business in this one here, you got the business. What's going to make the business the most money that's going to take us forwards and is going to be long term? So it's not short term cash, right? And I would write all those down. All right, and I would order them. And I'd go, all right, I've got these 15 things here now that are the most high profit actions. And these first 5 are going to go first. And I'm going to literally go 1, 2, 3, right? Once you finish one, you go on to the second one. And you might have some overlap and stuff like that. But you suddenly got to order it. And then at the start of every week, I write down what are the 5 most important high profit actions for me to do. And at the start of every day, I do the same thing.
Yeah. And I think, I strongly believe that whether you're doing this like for your business or just for yourself in general, like just this small exercise, which is so simple, is just so drastically important for anything that you're doing.
It just simplifies it. And when it's written down in front of you and you see it there, and as you do them, you get to go and just tick it off. Tick it off, tick it off.
Dopamine.
The dopamine just goes down. You're like, oh my God, yes. Right? So I love doing that. It really, it's exciting.
Oh, cool. What would be some of the biggest, like, again, mindset things that you've sort of overcome or learnt in order to, you could just say, upgrade yourself in the past couple of years?
I think the first one is if we talk about someone who is scarcity mindset versus growth mindset.
Okay.
So the person who's scarcity mindset, there's never enough. Other people are competition. People are out to get me. This person's talking shit. All that kind of thing. You're so worried about external things that you're not focused internally, right? Versus your growth mindset. Oh, there's more than enough. There's plentiful. There's more than enough money, people, happiness out there. There's an abundance, right? You're looking at like mindset around money, like all these things focus into that growth mindset of there's more than enough out there. Okay, I just need to find the opportunity to allow me to get there. Right? I can choose to be optimistic. I can choose to look for the best in people. And you know, as we know with our world, what we project onto our world is what comes back to us. If you're a negative motherfucker, you are going to find other negative people. I guarantee it. If you are someone who's super positive and you just bring this energy. When people are around you, they bring that energy too. Like Corey walks in the door and I'm like, woo, I'm up here. Like, what is going on, right? So for me, the first and most important thing is what you're looking for in the world, create in yourself, okay? And if you're going, I want the world to be more optimistic, to give me more opportunities, I want it to be a better place, I want it to be a happier place, well then that's what you've got to find in yourself. You find that in yourself, you find that in other people, and you bring it up in other people. Okay, now there will be some people who you can't bring that up in, and you do have to take them over a little chopping block and get rid of those people. Unfortunately, it's an awkward one, but that does have to happen sometimes, which can be quite hard, but it's realistic, it's life. Not everyone is going to be on that journey with you through that whole journey, and I think that's okay. Right? It's not that they're bad people, it's just that you're on different paths. So that's cool. Money.
Yep.
If you're going to be successful in business, you have to be successful in understanding your relationship with money, in managing money, in growing money, and in being okay with making money.
I think that's a huge one, being okay with making money. Huge.
If you come and think back to your childhood here, when we're thinking about money, think back to childhood. It's where a lot of these things are going to be imprinted in us from, right? Did you grow up in a house where there was never enough money? Was money a stress? If you left the light on, was your mum like, if you leave that light on, oh my God, we're going to go broke. I can't afford food now. It's 44 degrees, but if we turn the air conditioner on, that's going to cost us money. Well, why the fuck do you have an air conditioner then? Sell it. We can buy bread with that. Now we can have dinner. Fuck me. I'm so sorry, Mum, if you do watch this. But it's the mindset around that of always looking to save rather than looking to grow, right? And not saying that don't save and don't budget and do anything like that, but it's a change in mindset, it's a mindset shift around money. Because if you're always looking for there's not enough money and you're fearful around money,
you're not going to have a great relationship with making money. You won't be able to keep money when you do make it, because people have a financial thermostat.
And think about this, then close your eyes and think into your brain right now. Your bank account, there'll be a certain level that when it drops down to that level, you go, oh shit, I've got to save. I've got to stop spending money. I'm not going to go out. I'm not going to buy that drink, right? Most people will have that. And then you'll have the upper limit of your financial thermostat, which is where you hit this, you're like, I'm balling. Drinks on me, guys. Drinks
spending.
on
I'm
me.
feeling financially abundant. I get it.
Yeah, I'm going to buy my mate some drinks. Right? And people go between this for their whole life. And they're like, oh, I never get ahead. Well, no fucking shit. Right? So you've got to raise this financial thermostat. And you've got to be able to break through and change it and not get stuck in spending money because you hit a certain amount. Spend money because you want to spend money and it fits into the plan. Right? And when you're thinking about making money, don't compare yourself to other people. Don't even compare yourself to the stock market. Compare yourself to the goal you set. If you set this goal and you're investing and the stock market goes like this and you're beating the market, that's fantastic. But you're not achieving your goal. So always look at what's your goal and what's the fastest way to get there. And the other thing with money is just remember, how you buy things is how you sell things. And I say this a lot, and this came to me from Lewis Mocker. It was a brilliant line from him. And what it means is that if you aren't willing to pay for things yourself and to buy things, you're going to really struggle to sell things. Now, if you're struggling to sell things, you're going to struggle to make money. A good example of this would be, I used to go into the like a restaurant, and I'd look at the menu and I'd go, what are the 3 cheapest things on the menu? And then I'd pick from them for my meal, right? Because I was in this scarcity mindset. Even when I was making good money, that I was in the scarcity mindset. I didn't look at the menu and go, what would I really like to eat for dinner? I didn't. I was making more than enough money to do that very, 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 very comfortably. But I looked at it and said, what's cheapest? And it's changing that mindset. And if you do that yourself, I do challenge you to do this, is go there, and as long as you're not, in financial stress,
pick the thing you want to eat. Right? If you were brought up like me and you have this poor mindset around money,
you've got to start changing these things, because when it comes time to sell, you're going to be thinking that person doesn't want to spend money because you don't want to spend money. You're going to be projecting. Like I said before, what you project out onto the world will project back onto you. Whether they're thinking it or not, you're like, oh, he's thinking that. Right? If you're thinking shit about someone else, guess what? You're thinking that they're thinking shit about you. That's on you. Right? If people start laughing near you and they look over at you and you suddenly feel like, oh, wow, they're laughing at me. This is, oh, shit, what have I done? Right? That's because you would do the same in that situation. Right? And if you have no thoughts about that, it's because you're not judging people in that regard. So it's a really interesting concept.
It is. And there was 3 things I was actually going to say. I was like, if you were giving recommendations for someone in terms of that subject, one was, you buy things for selling things. And then another one was get a business coach, because that's the same thing. You're buying a business coach, which is going to help you do stuff. And then was also buying and learning from books. Now, one of the things I think is really important is one of the biggest takeaways there for keys, I think, just for me personally, is like what I take away is that it's simply just in order to, I guess, I don't know, for me personally, when I think about getting financially free, all the rest of it, it's like, well, if I invest in myself and I learn all these different things, then eventually it'll happen and it'll come because I'm making the decision to invest in myself. Is there any sort of other tips or recommendations that you could give to someone around that?
I think you need to understand what financially free is and how to be financially free. And to me, being financially free is you've got enough money to do what you want when you want. But to the next level for me, it's that being passive. Right now, passivity for me, it might be property, it might be stocks. You can make your own choice. I lean towards stocks. I feel like they're a much better option. I'm not biased at all. But I do feel like it's a great option. And where you hit that fluidity and freedom with finance is when the money coming in is more than your expenses, essentially. So when the money coming in passively exceeds your expenses, then you're free. You don't have to turn up to any work ever, right? And so with this passive, so to hit that, think you can either increase the passive income coming in, or you can decrease the expenses. That's two ways of doing it. The problem, however, is normally as people earn more money, their expenses go up just as bloody fast, right? You buy a nice car, and guess what? A week later, you're kind of bored of it. You're looking at the next one. Doesn't matter if you buy a Lambo. A week later, you're used to that.
Yeah.
Right. You get used to things very quickly as a human. Right. And think about it. You buy a nice house. You get used to it. Suddenly you're used to it. You want another house. Right. The average Australian, I think, stays in the house for about 7 years. And if you look at the graph of how interest works, in the first 7 years, you're really just paying off interest. In fact, most people are better off renting than buying. But there's such a stigma around rent money is dead money, right? That people don't want to rent, right? And I'd be willing to bet that there's certain people in certain institutions of banking that would probably perpetuate that and put money into perpetuating that rent money is dead money, right? You probably see it on their ads too, right? Because where do they make their money? In lending money. So I think that is an interesting thing. It's not for everyone, of course, but if you find that forever home, buy it. Absolutely. But if you're not going to live there for more than 10 years, then I probably wouldn't buy it. Yeah. I probably wouldn't be buying that place. It's probably a bad financial decision if you then put the difference in the rent and mortgage that you probably would be paying or the deposit you'd put down into something that's going to grow and become an appreciable asset.
And one of those things could be yourself.
It could be yourself. Absolutely. Absolutely. So that's what I'd be thinking about. And there's plenty of resources if you want to look into how to compound and grow money. Index funds are the easiest way. I'd recommend Money Master the Game and Unshakeable by Tony Robbins, and also the Little Book of Common Sense Investing. So if you were to read those three, you'd suddenly have the tools to become very, very extremely wealthy. And it doesn't mean you have to earn heaps of money. You don't have to earn heaps of money to become really wealthy. Compound interest over time, like the human brain really struggles to comprehend what that actually means. And it works out on about a 10% return, which is about, say, the US index fund, right? 10% return. If you put $25 a week into an index fund over a 40-year period, there's $1 million for your $52,000 investment. That's
just leave that on the. I'll just leave that on the table there.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you can compound things and let them grow, you'll be truly, truly surprised at what comes of it.
All right. So I'm gonna leave you with this is the last question I'm gonna ask you, and what would be probably your 3 biggest recommendations for someone to get started on their financial journey?
On their financial journey. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I think the first one would be to read those 3 books that I just mentioned. So we've got Money Master the Game, Unshakeable.
Tony Robbins.
Actually, if you can listen to them on Audible, it's even better, I guarantee it. And The Little Book of Common Sense Investing. The last one's a little bit painful, but very, very worthwhile. It was written by Jack Bogle, who created the first index fund.
Ooh, interesting.
So very, very interesting to listen to.
Yep.
The second
I'll link them in YouTube as well in the descriptions. Yeah.
affiliate links and shit.
No, affiliate.
I wish. You wish. Love it. I wish too, actually.
Yeah.
Financially, probably the next thing is to start to analyze and write down like what your relationship is like with money. So start to write down times where you have a negative relationship, or think back into your past as a child and write down a whole bunch of things where you were told that money was bad, or people with money were bad, or they did bad things to get that, or they don't deserve it, right?
Yeah.
Write all those things down, because you've got to get over that now, or that's going to be an issue for you long term.
I challenge you as well, if you are listening to this, honestly, pause the video and schedule a time into your like calendar or routine, whatever, where you can actually go through and do this exercise. Or if you're at home and you're listening right now, honestly, just quickly pause and just get a draft up or something, because in terms of figuring that out, because actually doing this, one thing to listen to the exercise, but it's another thing to actually go through and do it. And myself personally, I'm going to do this exercise probably tomorrow. So yeah.
Love it. So make sure you get that down. Make sure you understand where your beliefs about money come from. And the final thing for me would be to set up
10%. 10% that you're going to save. You can put this towards anything. You can invest this in anything, but always have at least 10% of whatever you earn after tax goes into some kind of saving or investing account, right? The effect of compounding over time is incredible. Don't wait. The quicker you get started, the easier this is going to be, the more money you're going to be able to accumulate.
People seem to think that wealth is unattainable because we can't comprehend compounding very well. Einstein said it's the 8th wonder of the world. And if you nail that, just saving 10% and slowly increase that over time, then you can be extremely wealthy. And it's not like you need to earn hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. Like, sure, that'll speed up the process. That'd be sweet, right? But there are many people who earn lots, but they spend lots as well. And they live week to week on stupid amounts of money. Okay, so start to learn to save and invest. If you do that, in 20, 30 years, you'll owe me a beer.
All right, one more question before we go.
Oh, we're back. One more.
I was like, another question is, what are the top 3 tips that you would give for people starting off in a business venture?
Top 3 tips, for starting a business venture. I think number 1, understand your why. You know, back to Simon Sinek right now.
Personal why.
Understand your why for starting that business. Because when it gets fucking hard, and when you hit those moments where you're like, why am I doing this? This is stressful. This is hard. Fall back on that. Write that down somewhere. Have it on your wall, right?
Yeah.
Have that there so that you can see it, you can understand it. I think that's number 1. That's
and read the book, Why, Simon Sinek.
Start with why.
Also be linked.
And use Corey 10 for 10% off.
No, there's no Corey 10 on
There's
there.
no Corey 10. Oh.
God damn it.
That's so
We got
awkward.
another one.
Can we edit that out after? So start with why, essentially. Understand your why for that business. I would also look at who is crushing it in that space, right? Can you learn from them? Could they be your mentor in some regard? Even if it's someone you'll never be able to reach, have they written books and they can mentor you through those books? All right, so find a mentor. And thirdly, I would say set yourself the task in business of doing one thing every single day that makes you feel uncomfortable. All right, so if you do one thing every single day, again, the cumulative effect of that is huge, because so many times in business, the things that are going to be most profitable, that are going to grow the business the most, that are going to help you the most, are the things you don't want to do. And so you're going to procrastinate, you're going to do the shit you do love doing. You spend 7 hours creating your logo for the 3rd time this month, right? And so at the end of that, like, you know where, but you haven't made that sales call yet, or you haven't called this person to ask, hey, could we do a collab here, right? So choose one thing every day. At the start of the day, go, what's one thing that's going to help my business that makes me feel uncomfortable, right? And by 3 years in, you're having to find some really weird, whack, wonderful shit that makes you feel uncomfortable because you're so used to stepping outside your comfort zone. And if you get to that point, you're doing pretty well.
Oh, God, I love that. Well, thanks, Pete, sharing your wisdom. Coming on,
pleasure, my man.
Giving us all this good stuff. I'm sure we'll probably have another episode
soon
with some stuff, though. Bro, thank you.
Big dog. Love it. Thank you.